Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Duke Oishi.
In our show this time, we'll cover some of the great Ignite speakers who presented at this year's Unconferenz, which was held last week at Windward Community College.
If you haven't seen them, Ignite presentations go very fast and are great fun to watch. We know you'll enjoy them.
The mantra of the annual Unconferenz conference is to, quote, create, collaborate, and catalyze, end quote. It's a grassroots tech and internet gathering of people from around the community that come together to share, network, support, and interact with each other, and in so doing, spark change.
As they say, the Unconferenz is what you make of it. It's a series of open grid, participant-driven sessions, especially including an Ignite STEM session covering subjects involving technology and the internet.
The format for an Ignite session is elegantly simple. Each speaker has 20 slides with 15 seconds for each one for a total of 5 minutes. The challenge for the presenter is to deliver a compelling talk in that specific limited structure.
The Ignite motto is, enlighten us, but make it quick. This year, Unconferenz continued the tradition and featured presentations from key members of the STEM community in science, technology, engineering, and math, who provided us with a rich sampling of what's going on in Hawaii.
The presenters were all great. The first was Roy Gall on exoplanets, the greatest hits of 2013.
I'm going to go through the greatest hits, the big astronomy stories of last year, and starting from close to home, really close to home, and going out to the farthest reaches of the universe. So we started in February with the Chelyabinsk meteorite that you all remember, that created an incredible sonic boom, left behind a crater. It lit up the skies in Russia and was really a wake-up call for what can happen when Earth gets struck. Hundreds of people were injured, many buildings were damaged. Here's a chunk of the meteorite they recovered out of the frozen lake, a mere 570 kilograms, so a tiny fragment of the about school bus sized meteorite that we thought came in. That was a big boom, but we also had a big bust, which was Comet Ison, which you all thought would be the comet of the century, or we hoped. They would pass very close to the sun and get incredibly bright, and we had great images of the comet as it went in towards the sun. It was a big deal in late November, right on Thanksgiving. As it passed very close to the sun, here's a coronagraph blocking out the sun from a spacecraft, and it survived initially, but then it totally broke up. Another almost boom was asteroid 2012 DA14, which passed only 17,000 miles from Earth within the orbit of geosynchronous satellites. Had this impacted the Earth, it would have been much worse than the Chelyabinsk meteorite, which was about a tenth that size. We had a look back at Earth. The Cassini spacecraft turned around and took a picture of Earth behind Saturn, and actually a zoom into this would show you the Earth and the Moon, kind of a follow-up to Carl Sagan's very famous pale blue dot picture, and people got to wave at Cassini during that picture. Mars, the Curiosity rover has been tooling around Mars and has found lots of interesting hints that life once could possibly have existed on Mars. We've seen water vapor shooting out from Europa. Here's a picture of Europa, and Hubble Space Telescope took spectroscopy of plumes coming off of Europa and determined that it's H2O, water, effectively geysers out of the surface of Europa. We've left the solar system. Voyager 1, launched in the 1970s, has now passed the heliopause, gone out beyond the range where the sun dominates what's going on to where the rest of the universe dominates what's going on. Exoplanets. The Kepler Space Telescope, which even though it ceased normal operations in 2013, just announced another 700 planet candidates. And this is just some of the many planetary systems that it's found.
Then we heard from Nate Yuen on native ecosystems.
I guess first I should explain that I'm not a botanist or a biologist. I actually have a regular job as an accountant. So I have a pretty mundane job during the work week, but during the weekends is when I go out into the forest and I go hiking and I look for native plants and animals and the neat things that are in Hawaii. So I guess today what I'll do is I'll share with you some of the native Hawaiian ecosystems, some of the cool plants and animals that live there, and why it's important to you. As I said, I go hiking primarily on the the spine of the Ko'ola Mountains and the Waianae Mountains, where a lot of neat things live. Primarily the Ohia lehua tree, which is Hawaii's signature tree. It is endemic to the Hawaiian Islands, and it plays a very important role in our ecosystems. Here, when we go camping, we're able to take pictures of the moonrise and also the sunrise the next morning. So, being positioned high in the mountains at that time of day makes all the difference in the world. So the Ohia tree, or the lehua flower, as we have here, is endemic to the Hawaiian Islands. It's very important. These trees have evolved here in the Hawaiian Islands, and so have many of the plants and animals, and they are adapted to the conditions here. We also have very special lobelia flowers, plants, and the amazing things about these is that many of these are just endemic to the island of Oahu. It's only found in Oahu. Others are found on the other neighbor islands, but they're very rare. And we also have a number of rare hibiscus flowers. Some of them have evolved to be pollinated by birds instead of by insects, so they don't open up. It takes a bird with a long beak, one of the honeycreepers, to stick their beak in there to pollinate the flowers. We also have native birds. Hawaii is a land, Hawaii did not have any mammals or reptiles or amphibians. It's a land of birds, insects, and snails. So birds, there are like about 78 different species of native birds. About 30 of them, unfortunately, are extinct. Hawaii has about 5,000 different insects and spiders and their allies. About 80% of them are endemic to the Hawaiian Islands, only found here. And then the native snails, there are about 500 species of them. Unfortunately, many of them are extinct. There's probably only about 30% of them left.
We were delighted to see David Ige there, gubernatorial candidate, who talked about a 21st century Hawaii.
This is how the state budget works in 15-second sound bites. So I do chair the committee on Ways and Means. It's the one committee that has the methods and the resources to get things done. So I do oversee the state budget, all the fiscal policy, tax policy, whether we should, shouldn't tax, how we should, when we should, why we should, anything about taxes that you might want to know, or awarding of tax credits and all of that. This is what the budget looks like. State budget is about 11.9, just under $12 billion. General fund budget, which is really the most general funds that we collect, is about $6 billion. And we decide, governor has requested spending another $283 million, and 183 of that is general fund. Where does the money come from? General excise tax is the biggest part. That's half of what we get. Individual income tax is the next biggest part. So all of you earning a living will be paying 30%. And then there's other tax revenues. The biggest thing with the budget, and the governor has talked about an $844 million surplus. What he didn't mention, failed to mention, is that he's deficit spending in the next 2 years. So he's trying to spend more than we earn to the tune of $400 million. That's the challenge that we face. We have an independent body that determines how much money we can spend. It's called the Council on Revenues, because the people, 78 Constitution Convention said there should be somebody independent trying to tell the legislature how much money they get. So basically, they made a 1% change. They reduced the amount of money we had. We just wanted to talk a little bit about how much of an impact that is. It impacts the budget through the entire, if you added it up for the 6 years, about $500 million impact, a 1% change. So the challenge we have is that the governor has told the people that we have this huge surplus. The actual revenue is dropping. We know the year-to-date collections is at minus 0.7%. So they're projecting +3, the actual is -1. So the challenge that we have is to try to make everything balanced, because at the end of the day, Constitution and people of Hawaii want to make sure that we don't spend more than we have.
Then our old friend Ted Ralston spoke on drones over Hawaii.
I got a call in November from 2 different calls from the Philippines saying, get some drones out here right away. We have a lot of confusion between the response of the NGOs and the military. Everybody's jamming in together, can't figure out where to go. We need pictures. But don't bring this drone, looks too military. So we brought that drone, which is just like the one on the back table here. And notice how it's all about people. It's all about people helping them get a picture of what their issues are And look at these kids. Some of these kids might turn into STEM candidates downstream. This is a typical example of a simple picture of a refugee collection center with damaged roof. Now the engineers can figure out how much that can hold and what to do about it. And you can't see these things from ground level. Here's a small village, a barrio, same issue. A local mayor or chief can quickly figure out what the issues are, where the people are who need to be pulled out, where the likely old people live and the kids and the medical issues and such. Once we made friends with that simple commercial drone, we were told, can you get more footprint? These things don't have much range. So here's the guys going back in the second deployment with a bunch of airplanes in boxes, which have a lot more footprint than the helicopters do, building up the first of the winged airplanes, again because of the higher footprint they have, with the Ateneo de Manila University, so we have local participation, local leadership, not just us. Doing some flying. This is the only field that actually had grass that we landed at. Everything else was all rocks and rubble. You'll see in a minute here, but here's what it looks like in a field situation. We call these expendable because they're basically foam, and like this, if you lose them, it's not a big deal, not like the military drones. Local transportation, that's what we're limited to, okay? You deal with what you got. The next picture will show the convergence of technology to folks who may have never seen this technology before. So I just bring this up because we deal with these things every day. We deal with technology every day, J stuff every day, but a lot of people don't have that context. And we have to be very careful about introducing it and let them ask us to bring more. Here's kids interested in the ground display showing the UAV in flight. Look at them, look on their face. This is all about people, about helping people understand the circumstances they're in and what can be done to fix that. This is an interesting picture. Eye-level look at a river. Looks like a plain old river, right? We got to dredge this thing because it's overflowed its banks, but eye level you can't get a good picture. We'll see in a minute what it looks like when you do an overhead, and that's where the value in these little guys is. Obviously, as I mentioned, landing these things in this environment is really tough. We've got to go ahead and toughen these birds up because that's one of the better landing fields.
And we heard from McKay Davis on cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin started in 2009, really in response to the financial crisis in 2008. The very first block of Bitcoin actually encoded this headline here, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. And it was created by this anonymous person, but we can kind of tell what his motives were. So Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer network protocol. It's a digital currency, and it's very strong, at least it's secure through cryptography. And it's all open source, and it allows the transfer of value over untrusted networks, like the internet, essentially. It allows for instant transactions with minimal transaction fees. So we can see down here a $2 transaction and a $4 million transaction. These were both pulled yesterday. Both of those transactions cost 5 cents to do. So the first real transactions for goods in the real world was 10,000 Bitcoins back in 2010 for a pizza. And those 10,000 Bitcoins are worth $5.5 million now. And so this was not through Papa John's itself, it was through a third party. But now we have a lot of high-profile companies taking Bitcoins, and there are more every day. We're just waiting for someone really high-profile like Amazon or PayPal or eBay or something like that, but we'll see it one day. So Bitcoin development has just been skyrocketing over here. This is the number of source code repositories referencing Bitcoin. It's very active development. Bill Gates here, Bitcoin is a technological tour de force. There's a lot of very smart people working on Bitcoin and have a lot of trust in it. So these altcoins are starting to fork off from Bitcoin. What they're just based off Bitcoin technology. And so Litecoin's based off Bitcoin and Dogecoin's based off Litecoin. But what's happening is Bitcoin's kind of becoming the reserve currency for all these other altcoins. So what happened here recently during Startup Weekend, Eric Nakagawa of I Can Has Cheeseburger bought a 10,000 Dogecoin pizza from J.J. Dolan's downtown here. And the Washington Post actually had a blog about this. So Bitcoin is revolutionary. This is taken 2 days ago in Ukraine. This guy's received over $5,000 from this picture alone. It allows people to send money into war zones, essentially. Cyprus, the last bubble in Bitcoin was because of Cyprus.
Finally, we heard from Brennan on Now or Never, Hawaii at the Crossroads.
I drive around Hawaii, and I asked myself, where are all the big tech giants, right? Where are the Facebooks and the Intels, the Googles, the Apples? You know, where are they? Where are their design centers, their research labs, their manufacturing plants? You know, why aren't we at the center of the 21st century universe? Why aren't we leading the charge and being innovative? Why aren't we the pioneers and the dreamers and the moonshot makers? It makes sense that we would be, because after all, we're smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We got North America, South America, Australia, Asia. We're the hub right here in the center. We have wonderful weather. We have the infrastructure to support these companies. But why aren't we getting there? Why aren't we the Palo Alto of the Pacific Ocean? It's funny. We have Sergey and Larry and Zuckerberg and all these folks. They come to Hawaii to vacation, but they don't stay. They don't bring their companies with them. You know, and I try to think about what are the reasons that we can't get them to come here, because it makes sense for somebody to want to spend their career surfing and working here in Hawaii. But I think the simple answer is, while there are many different reasons, the simple answer really is that we don't have a 21st century workforce that's ready to support these companies on the bleeding edge. So how do we get our kids there? How do we get kids ready for jobs that don't exist, to use technology that hasn't been invented yet, to solve problems we can't even think of? And really, that's the 21st century predicament, but we're okay, I think. We have really great content standards right now, Common Core, International Baccalaureate, P21, NETs. We're really ready to go. Plus, technology is so cheap right now that we don't even think twice about dumping a truckload of iPads on Mrs. Johnson's fourth graders. The problem is that technology alone has never been proven to help improve education. But what has been proven to help education are these collaborative learning environments, inquiry-driven, where we look at 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, things like this. But the problem is that we need something to bring these things together. And through our experience in research and practice at the University Laboratory School, we think we found it, and it's in the form of Google Apps for Education. Google Apps for Education for us is great because it facilitates collaboration, communication, but mostly it's everywhere. It's on your laptop, it's on your tablet, it's on your phone, it's at school, it's at work, it's on the bus, it's at grandma's house, but most importantly, it's on a school-issued tablet that a kid has, so that when that child who wakes up in a car in Nanakuli Beach Park, okay, now has access to the internet, the same as that kid who wakes up at Hawaii Loa Ridge and goes to Punahou that day. It's the great leveler for us.
But that was not the end of it. After the presentations were over, we took a walk around and sampled reactions from those who were there.
The Ignite talks were a challenge. You know, we're kind of up to our eyeballs in the Capitol just trying to get the legislation done. So we kind of threw a bunch of slides together and just thought we would do the state budget with 15-second sound bites.
This is a great way to spend Saturday. I met a lot of interesting people, heard a lot of interesting ideas, saw some great new gadgets, and the Ignite presentations, I think we should have more.
I think it went pretty well. It was my first time ever doing one of these Ignite-style talks, so I was learning on the fly.
I have a website, and I try to talk at different events so that people know about the native plants and animals and how important it is to us for water.
I think what we have to do is deconflict the issues of privacy. And the drone has nothing to do with the privacy. The privacy is all about imagery that you collect, no matter how you collect it. A bigger threat to privacy is the wearable cameras that people are starting to wear that record every 2 minutes of your life.
It was another, I think, successful event. We've done 7 of these unconferences starting back in 2008. So each one is a very interesting sort of reflection of the time, because it's all about the people that attend as well as the topics that are of interest to everybody.
It went great. Yeah, a little nervous up on stage, but I always am.
Is this your first time in an Ignite?
Yes, this is my first Ignite. So.
What are the challenges?
The challenges were trying to get all the words out because I had too many words on the slides.
Yeah, it was a great time to come to the Unconference, I think, because there was a lot of people that are looking to be engaged and be active, and to be around that energy was very inspiring.
If I had to give you one word, the word would be drones. We had 3 drones here today. Standard off-the-shelf, a military unit, and a homebrew unit, and they were all 3 flying at once, and that was pretty cool, I've got to say.
All in all, it was great that Unconference included the Ignite session. And it was great that the Ignite session was focused on science and technology. And it was great to hear these speakers do their rapid-fire talks about their respective STEM subjects. Good for Unconference, good for Ignite, and good for them.
You should have been there. Hopefully next year you will. And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. And we replay them all night long on ustream.tv. If you missed a show or want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be part of our live audience in our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Email me if you're interested, jay@thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
And now, here's this week's ThinkTech News.
Aloha. I'm Nicole Horry for ThinkTech News. Finally, the Department of Taxation has gone public with some data on how much the renewable energy tax credits have cost the taxpayers. The takeaway from the department's report is that a record amount was claimed for 2012, $164 million, an increase of 109% over 2011. The department noted that this amount is based on claims that were processed up till the end of 2013. As claims continue to go through, the total amount is sure to increase. Out of that $164 million, $82 million was through the refundable option. That is, even if the recipient of the credit had no taxable income in Hawaii. That's 50% of the money given out through this tax credit. Huge. Beyond that, there can be little doubt that the very large majority of that $82 million went straight out of state to mainland-based companies such as Vivint Solar, Solar City, Sunrun, Clean Power Finance, and other out-of-state financiers, investors, and bankers. Since 2003, renewable energy tax credits have cost the state about $340 million. Nearly half of that expenditure was just in last year. In September 2012, DBET estimated the renewable energy tax credit hit for 2012 could come to as much as $174 million. DBET was criticized by many, especially the solar installation industry, for grossly overestimating that number. Now that we know it will be at least $164 million, it appears they were pretty darn close. Let's hear it for DBET for having the courage to come up with a number when no one else wanted to. This is big money. Will legislators and the taxpayers change the policies, or are they too overwhelmed by complaints from the solar installation industry? Will there be a hue and cry like the hubbub over Act 221 several years ago? Or will this be a ho-hum moment in which the legislature and the taxpayers ignore what is now certainly an elephant in the room and an increasing inequity as far as energy costs are concerned? We should all be watching. Nicole Horry, ThinkTech News.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Castle & Cooke, Hawaii. Investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Collateral Analytics, empowering the real estate industry to make better informed property investment decisions. The Foreign Trade Zone, bringing the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone programs to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. Galen Ho, a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. Hawaiian Electric Company, and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island. The Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, incorporating diverse perspectives to design a flexible and forward-looking energy strategy. Hawaii Energy, the state's energy and efficiency program created to help Hawaii's residents and businesses adopt a clean energy lifestyle. Hawaii Gas, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Hawaii Pacific Health, bringing technology and teamwork together to transform healthcare in Hawaii. The High Tech Development Corporation, attached to DBED, is the state's leading technology agency. The SHIDLER Family Foundation, supporting educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech. Okay, Duke, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Duke does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
For sure, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or volunteer, a producer or studio intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode.
I'm Duke Oishi. Aloha, everyone.